What is happening, people? And welcome back to another episode of the Park Lane Podcast, episode number 15. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for watching. And thank you all for listening online as well. My name is Luke, and I'm as always, joined by my very good friend, Wynnie. Wynnie, how you doing, mate?
I'm all right, mate. I thought I wasn't sure whether to go for the England or the Spurs because obviously we both matched with the England last week. So I thought I'd mix it up and go with Spurs today. But yeah, other than that, mate, I'm all good. What about yourself?
Mate, I'm good. Been a busy week. A lot of football. A lot of things to talk about.
So much football. Like I love it, but trying to keep on top of it is just ridiculous. Like it's insane how many games there are.
Yeah, man, it's absolutely crazy, isn't it? But yeah, let's get all the things out of the way first. So if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like button as well, because all the likes and subscribers really, really do help us. So we do appreciate that. If you're watching us on Twitter, come on over to YouTube and drop us a subscribe. If you're listening on any podcast platform, then don't forget to give us a 5-star rating. And also, don't forget to subscribe to it and follow it as well, or wherever you watch it online. I did notice actually recently, Wynnie, talking about that. I was looking at the stats on podcasts the other day, and there's a lot of men that watch our show. A lot of men.
Right.
Or listen, sorry. Not a lot of women. So, if you're women, if you enjoy football, don't forget to tune in as well, because it's not just for men.
No, of course it's not. You know, like we try to keep it as easy to listen as possible. So you know, even if you're not bang into football, especially with the World Cup, you know, especially at the minute, because obviously when it's specifically Tottenham, it's a bit niche. But this is the World Cup we're talking about. We're talking about all different countries, completely different. We do touch upon Spurs, but yeah, definitely don't forget, just check us out.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. And for those of you worried about Winnie's drinking habits, he's not drinking alcohol. 11 o'clock in the morning.
It's lemon and lime. Sorry to disappoint. Some people will be disappointed in me, but you know, yeah, I'm not drinking just yet.
Amazing. Right, let's crack on. So as we do during the World Cup, we're talking all things Spurs, but also all things Qatar 2022. So quickly, Wynnie, before we get into it, there's been a lot of talk this week about has people's opinions changed on Qatar? You know, has the World Cup been a success, things like that. Like, I personally think the World Cup has been good. There's been a lot of good games, a lot of results that probably you wouldn't predict would have happened. Does it change my opinion on all of those things? The issues with the country? No. Does it change my footballing opinion on Qatar? No, because they were fucking woeful. But all in all, forgetting about that, like it's been a good World Cup, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, there was a lot of scrutiny and adversity in the build up to the tournament, but all of that aside, if I'm looking at the tournament as a tournament, I think it's been very well put together. It's a very well run tournament, and like I said before, I think I do think I was having this conversation with one of my family members in the week, and I genuinely believe it's down to no alcohol. I really do, because you always, regardless. I mean, was it the one? Was it in France, or whether was it the Euros, I think, wherever it was, where there was just trouble. Every country was just coming together and just having a scrap, basically. And that was, you know, it was premeditated, but a lot of it would have been fueled by alcohol. So I do think that has helped. But yeah, tournament, you know, adversity aside, I think it's been a good tournament. And like I say, it's one of these this World Cup now where Qatar aside, because like you said, as you said, they were shit. There's every other, and you'll see by the teams that have qualified, there's probably a few in there that people didn't expect. So I think it's a tournament where anyone can kind of beat anyone. So
yeah, definitely, unless you're a German fan.
Yes.
But anyway, let's jump into it. So first game we're going to go over is France against Denmark.
Yes.
We had Hugo Lloris in goal for France, and we had Pierre-Emile Højbjerg in the midfield for Denmark. So game finished 2-1.
Yeah.
You know, Hugo obviously was in goal, didn't have too much to do. He did concede. But kind of the standout player for Denmark for you was Højbjerg, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, it's not, you know, it's not alien that we're saying that, because although he's not a world-class player, for Denmark, sitting alongside Christian Eriksen, he is the like the main man, so to speak, because they're not blessed with these world class players. So, I mean, yeah, Hugo didn't have too much to do, but we said that before, we don't expect France to have too much to do, unless they come up against, because I don't know, he hasn't really been tested, let's be honest. So it will be different to see later on in the tournament how he does. But yeah, so it wasn't a shock to see. Again, it was Højbjerg of Spurs. He didn't do anything spectacular, but he did his job, which is just sit in front of the back four, not do too much, break up some play, and some little neat passes into Eriksen, who is the creator for the team. That was the kind of balance that we were crying out for at Spurs, let's be honest. When whether some fans wanted Eriksen or not, that's the kind of balance that we wanted, and that's the balance that we see with Denmark, where they've got the good balance of Højbjerg breaking it up, giving it to Eriksen to create chances. So yeah, it wasn't a thrilling game, but France did what they needed to and got the win. So
yeah, definitely, it's interesting you said that about France first of all, because I think you're right. They probably had, if I remember their group correctly, they probably had one of the easier groups of
like England as well,
Tunisia, Denmark, and Australia.
Yeah.
So as far as games go, it's pretty easy group. Denmark, on the other hand, have been really, really underwhelming, haven't they, after their performance in the last Euros?
Yeah, because they were. I think they were seen as a team that were almost up and coming. They kind of they kind of rose out of nowhere. They were always a team that was there or thereabouts. But then recent years, maybe it's the resurgence of people like Højbjerg, because that's, like I say, when he was at Southampton, he was always one of these players that did his job. But now he's kind of elevated his game, so to speak. So. Yeah, but yeah, they were very, very underwhelming this tournament. I expected a lot better from them.
Yeah, definitely. Let's move on to Argentina 2, Mexico 0. Argentina back to winning ways. Romero didn't start, but once they were 2-0 up, he did come on. And I wonder if that had anything to do with his performance against Saudi Arabia, or whether it has anything to do with his recent injuries. What do you think?
So if you believe in football Twitter, there's obviously certain accounts that are reputable. So there was some saying that he signalled in the Saudi Arabia game. He signalled to the bench to come off. So I believe he was still. They maybe rushed him back. Let's be honest. He was injured. Whether you believe that or not, as a Spurs fan, there was a lot of Spurs fans out there that believe he was just coasting the last month so he could play for Argentina, but he was genuinely injured, and I know he was a doubt for the first game against Saudi Arabia. So yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, they're lucky they've got that United centre back Martinez to come in and plug the gap. So they've got a decent replacement. So it's not as if like Spurs, if Romero's out, we're going right, Davinson Sanchez or what? You know what I mean? They can afford to, and that's the thing with international football. You are going to have a decent replacement. So I think it was probably a bit of both. He didn't have the best game against Saudi Arabia, but he came on when they were 2-0 up and kind of like secured the victory, so to speak, because he did his Romero-esque performance of just flying into everything.
Yeah, exactly, and it's got to be hard for him, playing for Argentina as well. I would suspect that maybe in the first game against Saudi, they thought this is a good game for him to play in. Won't be too much trouble, be able to just cope with what they have, and we'll coast through the game. But obviously, that didn't happen, and so maybe we'll start to see him in the latter stages, or maybe due to the pressure that there is in Argentinian football, whether you will see him on the bench.
I mean, let's be honest. So again, depending what you believe, in the build up to us signing Romero. Because obviously he was linked with Barcelona, and that was obviously a heavy link with Messi at the time. And apparently Messi was said to the Barcelona board, if you don't sign this player, I'm off. And I don't believe he genuinely said those words, but it was to that extent. He was saying, we've got to sign this player. This geezer going to be one of the best centre backs in the world. And then all of a sudden we agree a deal, and we're thinking, wow, this is some player we've got here, and you know what? He has lived up to it. I know he's had his issues in terms of the last month where he coasted through to play for Argentina. But like we explained on the last pod, like I don't blame him one bit for that.
Yeah, moving on. The next game was Croatia against Canada.
Yes.
Canada go 1-0 up, and then Croatia turn it on and beat them 4-1 with Ivan Perisic getting 2 assists in the game.
Yeah.
So it's good to see him, because for Spurs, obviously, he plays as a wing-back. For Croatia, he plays as a winger.
Of course.
Which we've seen, obviously, in a lot of his career as well. And it's good to see him playing well for his international side. And also, a bit of a shame, I think, on Canada, because I had reasonable expectations for them, but they just don't have enough quality across the whole of the pitch. They've got some good players.
Yeah.
They just don't have enough quality.
And I mean, with Canada, I think the one I said to my friend, actually, there's one thing that really annoys me with international teams. Maybe the teams that aren't necessarily up in the top rankings is people like Canada. So I remember, I didn't watch the game, but I remember seeing Canada got a penalty, and I can't remember who it was against.
In the first game, against Belgium. Maybe they got a penalty in both games.
All I remember seeing them get a penalty. Now I'm thinking, right, let whoever your striker's the one that scores the goals. Let's let him step up. He's going to be buzzed for playing in a massive tournament. Let him put the penalty away and go 1-0 up. Now I didn't watch it. I don't know if it was a good save, where it was a poor penalty or what. The penalty was missed, and it was taken by Alphonso Davies, who is obviously a wing back. So what annoys me is you see these smaller nations that have got. They normally do have 1 or 2 world-class players, like in Alphonso Davies. And he's probably gone, look, I'll take this penalty. I'm the best player here. But in essence, he is a wing-back. Like, he's not used to scoring goals. That's the one thing that annoys me. And I don't know if that played a part in the tournament, whether it was like, right, I didn't really watch Canada, but I don't know whether it's a part of, let's just get the ball to him and hope that he can do something good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Also, I don't know why they didn't give the penalty to Jonathan David.
Exactly. Yeah. Another person who was linked with Spurs as well. So I know we get linked with everyone, but someone who's used to putting the ball in the back of the net, just let him take it. But yeah, it's just one little gripe that I have with countries like that. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I get it. And let's move on to probably what was one of the best scoring games in the tournament. And that was, I think it was on Monday this week. Because there was 2 really good games. There was Serbia against Cameroon, followed by Ghana against South Korea. Yeah. And the South Korean game, obviously with Heung-min Son, the game finished 3-2 to Ghana. I think Ghana were 2-0 up.
Yeah.
South Korea came back to 2-2, and then Ghana ended up going 3-2 up. And then with a corner at the very last kick of the game, the English referee decided to blow the whistle, and the South Korean coach got sent off. But let's talk a little bit about Son. Like, again, I feel like with him, we're not too bothered about the results, right? We're more bothered about, and this is all about Spurs players' performance.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I don't care too much if South Korea don't do bits in this tournament, but he's a lot of pressure on his shoulders, isn't he? He always does. He's the golden boy for South Korea, and everybody expects him to score all the goals. But it's a little bit like what we were just talking about with Canada to a certain degree. You can't always expect your star players to be star players, and it's taken him a little while to get into this tournament, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, we have to expect it, because it's not as if he's had a storming season for Spurs so far. He has been way below average for Tottenham. He had that 20 minutes against Leicester where he scored his Son-esque goals, but that aside, he's been pants. Let's be honest. So, like you say, there is a lot on his shoulders, and it can't be easy for him. Trying to take a whole country on your back to a major tournament. So it's people thought, obviously, because he damaged he fractured his cheekbone. People thought, the masked Son was going to be like a bit of a game changer, because you normally see it, don't you? You normally see these players like Harry Kane when he wore the mask, and he was phenomenal with it. It's almost like it gives him powers, like some sort of fucking superhero. But yeah, it definitely hasn't worked that way for Son, unfortunately. But do you know what? Like, he's that player that at one point he will just switch and he'll turn it on and it's like he's never been gone. And that's the type of player Son is. So very underwhelming so far, but I mean, we'll see what happens. We don't know.
No, exactly. And next game was involving Spurs players was Brazil 1, Switzerland 0.
Yes.
Brazil have been a little bit underwhelming in this competition, I think. A lot of teams have sat back against them. Serbia, Switzerland, and then we will talk about the game from last night. Yeah, last night against Cameroon.
Yeah.
Was it? Or
I think was it?
Anyway, whoever it was against someone last night. And Cameroon. And Richarlison, scored twice in the first game, but it's not going to happen every game for him, just like it won't in the Spurs shirt. He scored twice against Marseille in Champions League. Didn't really score many after that. But he looks busy. He's a starter for Brazil. Yeah. And it was just a Casemiro strike that sealed the win for them, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I mean this is a player who we've talked about. He is, regardless of the tournament aside, he is Brazil's number one striker, and he starts at his record is. I mean, prior to the tournament, I think it was like something like 8 goals in 6 games. Don't quote me exactly, but it was around about those figures. So, do you know what? I mean, the problem is I always think if you chuck me in that Brazil side, I'm going to score a couple of goals. You know what I mean? Because Neymar's probably going to do a couple of pirouettes, take someone on and square it across the 6-yard box for me to tap in. I'm not saying Richarlison's goals have all been amazing, apart from his second one in the first game, which was obviously a bicycle kick. But yeah, it's very it's very similar to all these big players for the country, because I suppose he's not like a huge player like Neymar or something, but he is like a pivotal part of their system. So there is a lot of expectance on him, and he delivered in the first game, but it can't happen every week. It literally can't. And I made a bold statement saying he was going to be the top goal scorer last week, didn't I? So he's kind of let me down a bit on that one. I don't think he's going to get top goal scorer now, but Brazil were favourites for the tournament prior to it. So there's a lot of expectancy on his shoulders to score the goals to carry him to victory. So
yeah, definitely. And this Brazil side is completely different to the Brazil side of the 90s, the early 2000s.
Yeah, of course.
With all the players that they had, and maybe they are a bit too expectant of this team, but we will see. We'll definitely see. So Rodrigo Bentancur had a pretty good game, even though Uruguay lost 2-0 to Portugal. Uruguay have got some really good players in their team, right?
Yes.
If we look at Luis Suarez, I'll even say the Uruguayan Andy Carroll, Darwin Núñez, even the likes of Cavani, Godin, but they're an old team, But that midfield we talked about last week of Valverde and Bentancur is top quality, and he had a very, very good spell, didn't he? Where he nearly scored an absolutely outstanding goal, but again, Uruguay couldn't make anything of it.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with them. Like I say, they've got like a little pool of very, very good players, and maybe it's because they are Godin, Suarez. Maybe it's because they are getting on. But I mean, I saw Suarez when he I don't think it was the third. It might have been this game. I think he either came on or he started. I can't remember. But there was one point where he was chasing someone down to the corner flag, and mate, he looks like he's put about 4 stone on. He looked so unfit, and maybe that's a part of it as well. But then, the flip side of that is, I think it may have been that game or the next one. Someone's passed it across the box to him, and he's absolutely whipped this shot. It was going in the top corner, and it's just hit the joint and bounced out. So he's, you can't take that away. Your fitness may drop, but you can't take away natural ability like that. So yeah, Bentancur, he picked the ball up on the halfway line and just ran with it. He didn't stop, and then there was 3 players, and he jinked in between the 2 of them. And I mean, I must admit, I think it was a bit of a poor finish. I think the way to finish that would have been a little dink over the keeper. But he's not known for his goal scoring. But what a run it was! What a run! And what do I need to say about Rodrigo Bentancur? Absolute steal at 15 million. I'll say it every week until I'm blue in the face. We have got an absolute bargain in that guy, because he is world class. It's as simple as that.
Definitely, mate. And if what is being reported, Paratici aside, about what's happening at Juventus, There could be a little chance for us to dabble back into that Juventus pool, couldn't it? Because
why not?
It looks like they are in big, big trouble. And fingers crossed that it doesn't involve Paratici, or he manages to slither out of it. Because I don't believe
it doesn't look good, does it? Let's be honest, it doesn't look good for him.
No, but I don't believe that. Daniel Levy wouldn't have known anything about this.
I know what you're saying.
And it seems to me that maybe he could be lucky enough to be far enough away from it.
Yeah.
To not get as involved as some of them have been, in terms of the whole board and chief execs, etc., stepping down. So anyway, I don't know much about it. There's a lot of things that Spurs Twitter.
I think all I do know with that is because there was a lot of talk of warrants for arrest and stuff like that being issued. Supposedly, according to some reputable journalists, it's going to be more football sanctions as opposed to police sanctions. So we're talking, probably like monetary fines and stuff like that, and things like that. So I think he's gonna get away with it again.
Yeah, and then we'll just get him to stay hell away from Juventus for a little bit. But yeah, let's move on because I don't want to really say a shock result, but not a result that I kind of would have seen because Senegal beat Ecuador 2-1.
Yeah,
in Senegal without the likes of Sadio Mane. We will talk a little bit about Senegal towards the end because the upcoming game tomorrow is the first knockout game, England against Senegal.
Yes.
And I don't think that they are as good as they have been, but we can't deny that they are the champions of Africa.
Yeah,
and they have some good players. But our mate Pape Sarr didn't feature again.
Yeah,
I know he's a young kid and he did get, African Young Player of the Year, which also the likes of Sadio Mane did get in the past. So it's, he's in good company. But it would be nice to see him a little bit in this tournament, wouldn't it?
Well, there's like I say, prior to the tournament, although he's always in the squads, I don't think there was any expectance of him to be getting many minutes. It was more like, you're a young player. This is a World Cup. This is what it's all about. And hopefully in the next World Cup, he'll be a starter, in the starting 11 and featuring. So if they were to qualify, of course, there's no guarantees on that. But I don't think there was a lot of expectance on him. But I mean, what I will say is I believe in the next game, which is obviously against England, I think Idrissa Gueye is banned. He's suspended for one game. Now that's obviously Sarr's position. So will he feature? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what they've got on the bench to bring on, but he's someone that plays in that position, and he did get minutes in the previous game, so maybe they'll be looking upon him now to come on, and we can be talking about in the next pod him featuring against England, which obviously we'll all be watching, so we'll get a good look at him if that is the case. But
yeah, no, definitely, mate. And that's an incredible segue, to be honest, because the next game that we're going to talk about is England.
Yes.
So this is Tuesday night, England against Wales. Now, there was a lot of talk, wasn't there? Wales weren't going to be scared of England. And Rob Page said that, the Wales boss, something like they got to put their big boy pants on or something like that. But let's be honest with them. There was no pants on whatsoever, was there? Wales.
No, their pants were down. Let's be honest, their pants were down all tournament.
Wales were just trash, weren't they? Like coming to play against England, and talking up all the talk, and then sitting back in the first half and doing nothing.
Yeah,
they just offer zero, don't they? I want to go as close as saying they were as bad as Qatar, but they probably weren't that bad. But they were. They
weren't far off, mate. Let's not beat around the bush. They weren't far off. I mean, a Gareth Bale penalty aside, and they'd have lost all 3 games.
Yeah, without scoring a goal.
Yeah, exactly. So we can't beat around the bush. They're a home nation side, and we don't want to upset some people. But they were crap. They were crap. And the problem is there was a lot of talk, like you said, before the tournament. We're gonna be the ones that knock England out. Come on, did they actually think that? Like that's the problem. Is I don't know whether if they did believe that, then there's some deluded people in Wales because they've got an aging Gareth Bale. Gareth Bale is still their best player.
Yeah.
And he's still hanging on by a thread. And I said in the last week's pod when we talked about it, although they are Spurs players, Joe Rodon and Ben Davies as your centre backs, it's not good enough. It's simply not good enough. And we've only got to look at Ben Davies for one of the goals. He was poor for the second goal. So I mean, I think I'm not sure if he even tried to pass it, but he got dispossessed. Harry Kane, unfortunately, it fell to Harry Kane. And I don't doubt that Ben Davies looked at that and gone, "I've just given the ball to Harry Kane. I know exactly what's going to happen now." But that aside, what a ball in. What a ball to the back post for Phil Foden. And I saw Bellingham before Foden had even touched the ball. I saw Bellingham with his arms up in the air celebrating. So he knew exactly what was going to happen. But what I will say quickly, is Harry Kane got pelted again because he's just put that ball straight to the back post. And I can't remember what pundit it was. It was someone who was commentating during that game or at half time. So someone in the studio. They said, yeah, it was a bit of a, he didn't know what he was doing, Kane. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, he knows exactly. And I think it was
just like a hit and hope.
Yeah. And it might have been someone like Alan Shearer, who, to his credit, always backs up Harry Kane and always sticks up for him. I think he said, look, he's put the ball into a position where he would be. So as long as he does that, he didn't have to look up. If no one is there to meet that ball, then that's their problem. He's put it where he would want to tap it in. So, but yeah, I mean, Ben Davies was poor. Joe Rodon wasn't exactly setting the world alight, but like I say, besides a Gareth Bale penalty, they would have lost all games without scoring. So
yeah, definitely. And do you know what? I'm going to hold my hands up here. So I've gone telling my life story here. I'd gone to the gym before the England game.
Okay.
And I rushed home and
to get yourself pumped up for it. Is that what it was?
Yeah. And I sit and I watch the game. I watched the game with one of my friends, right? Because I live far away from one of my really good pals. So I watched the game with him through the PlayStation. And we chat on like party and whatever. And I watched the games. And it was so funny because he was like, at halftime, he was like, go and quickly make your dinner because I hadn't eaten. Right. And I'd had about 4 beers before that point as well. And so I rushed downstairs, made my dinner. So I missed like this chat that you were talking about at half time. I came back up, must have been, I don't know, 5-7 minutes into the second half because it took me longer than I thought. Next thing I know, I've missed 2 fucking goals. The whole first half was absolute carnage, like just so bad. And then I missed 2 goals and missed that. But yeah, talking about Harry Kane, he's at that point he was the top assist for the tournament, and yet he's still getting pelters for his involvement in an England shirt. And it's just ridiculous, isn't it? What a way to celebrate your country, and what a way to try and push on players, and be able to kind of like sing the praises of your players to be able to push them on in this tournament. And just people,
it's just the English way. It's the English way. We always do it. All of our best players, for some reason, unless you are the team or a supporter for the team, the club team that they play for, like we adore Harry Kane, we adore him for England, we adore him for Spurs, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's because I genuinely don't know it. All of my friends that support different clubs, I've got a friend who's a Liverpool fan, hates Harry Kane. I've got a friend who's an Arsenal fan, obviously hates Harry Kane. I get that, but teams like Liverpool and Man City, why do they hate? What reason have they got to hate Harry Kane? My friend's a Liverpool fan, and whenever I talk about him, he's like, I can't stand him. He's a diver. He's got a reputation of diving. Oh my God.
I don't know how any Liverpool fan can sit there.
Yeah, I know.
Talk about diving.
I know that's the funny thing is it's so hypocritical from it. But I mean, we're talking about someone who is one of the best, if not the best, strikers in the world, and we've got him playing for our country. Like, we don't know how lucky we are. When he goes, who have we got? Let's say the next World Cup in 4 years' time, what will he be? He'll be like 34, probably around about that. Will he still be playing? Probably not. This might be his last World Cup. So we need to appreciate what we've got. Who have we got to step in his boots when he goes at the next tournament? No disrespect, Tammy Abraham. Okay, fair enough. Like, he's an all right player.
Ivan Toney, great.
Yeah, exactly. So this is it really frustrates me, and I'm very passionate about it. Not just because he plays for Spurs. People like Wayne Rooney didn't play for Spurs, but I look at him when he plays for England. I'm going like, you are unreal. We really need to appreciate you. But again, he got a lot of stick, and it's just the English way. We just like to criticise all of our best players and then complain that they're not having a good tournament, even though he is. But he's probably got 70% of his country on his back saying he's playing shit. So what do you expect?
Exactly, right. That's it. And that leaves England top of the group.
Yeah.
Pushes them onto a game tomorrow night against Senegal. And then it gets interesting, but let's not look too far ahead because you can only beat the team that's in front of you, right?
Yeah, exactly that. And I mean, I've looked at the route and the path, and I know exactly who we're going to get after that. So
definitely, unless Australia can do, or whoever it is. No, maybe it's not them. Whoever it is can do something. But anyway, let's move on. Talking about Australia, and do you know what? Like, I quite like Australia, and I don't know why. They're absolute rubbish, and they've got like terrible players. Apart from they do have this fella that plays for them. I think he's called something Cummings.
Okay.
And is first of all, his nickname is Cum Dog.
Nice.
Quite funny.
I appreciate the nickname.
He's a Scottish-born Australian.
Right. Okay.
And so when he had an interview the other day, he was just pure Scottish in his Australian shirt. But they've pulled out some trees in this tournament, and they've done really, really well to qualify.
Yeah.
And saying that France had an easy group, Australia didn't have an easy group.
They were the underdogs of the group. It's as simple as that.
Definitely. And they beat Denmark 1-0.
Yeah.
And again, Højbjerg looks solid, but didn't do a lot else. And I watched kind of the back end of the game, and the goal they scored as well. It wasn't even the best of goals.
No,
but they just went for it. And fair play to the Aussies. And I saw the scenes at 4 a.m. in Melbourne, or wherever it was, with them with flares, and I just thought that's the passion that you want, isn't it?
Even that got criticised by some people saying, "Oh, it was so forced. It was, it was all set up." Of course, it wasn't. This is a team that were looking, going into the tournament thinking, you know what? I don't know. I don't know any Australians. So I don't know what their thoughts on the group was or the tournament as a whole. But I don't doubt that they went into that tournament thinking, look, let's just try and win a game. Let's just enjoy ourselves. Yeah. And maybe that's what is. You see these teams go in with no pressure. Maybe that's what it is. There's a lot of pressure on some teams. I think there would have been a lot of pressure on Denmark to qualify out of that group. They would have been expected to. So the teams that there's no pressure on can go out there with freedom, just enjoy it, play football. And I think we've seen that with Australia. Like you say, they've got no amazing players. They've got no one that I can even name, to be honest. So
the only one I know is that either that Cummings or that Leckie.
And I know they used to have. Was it who was at Crystal Palace? Is it Jednak?
Okay, yeah.
I think he used to. I don't know how old he is now. I'm talking years ago. I'm pretty sure he is Australian.
Is it that Aaron Moy? Is that his name?
Okay, yes. There's a couple of players that we've seen in the Premier League floating about, but other than that, I can't name anyone in their tournament so far. But full credit to them. They've gone into a group and they've absolutely smashed it. So we've got to give them a lot of credit for that.
Definitely. These knockout games, when I say knockout games, I mean, these last kind of group games, which tend to end up being kind of knockout games, which have pulled out some really interesting moments in them. But again, France 0, Tunisia 1, another shock result. And, Hugo Lloris was rested in that game, which we've seen a few times, which is always interesting, I think, to rest your players. But he was rested and France lost, but I think also Mbappe was left out, but he did come on.
Yeah, they left alone.
Again, I've seen a lot of these teams, right? I've seen Brazil, I've seen Spain, I've seen France, I've seen Portugal struggle and get beat by other teams. And yes, they have rested players, but let's not forget, right? Because we are English. Let's not forget about England, who did rest players against Wales, who did bring in Foden, who did bring in Rashford. And did bring in Jordan Henderson. And so, yet we still managed to get through. The only difficult result was a 0-0 against USA. But again, we didn't concede.
No.
The only goals we conceded were against Iran, and one of them was a dodgy penalty. So, I think that I'm not hyping us up too much, but I have seen frailties in some of these major teams who I would have feared in the past, and I'm slowly not starting to fear them.
I look at our side. I know we haven't touched upon it really, but I look at our side of the tournament in terms of who we could possibly get, and I mean France aside, and even France, I look at them and I go, do you know what? Like, if we can keep Mbappe quiet, we're talking about a France without Benzema. Do you know what I mean? We're talking about a France that is not as good as it probably was in the previous tournament. So, France aside, I mean, the only other difficult team, I suppose, is Spain. But even them, like they for me, I know they beat Costa Rica 6-2, but I still think they've been very underwhelming. Like I haven't looked at them and gone, wow, like this team looks phenomenal. And I haven't seen that with anyone really. So that's what I'm saying. I think it's a tournament where
they lost, didn't they, against Japan?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that. Do you know what? To be fair, Japan are the only team I've looked at and I've gone, do you know what? You look well drilled. You look full of energy. They look really, really good side. And do you know what? I actually wouldn't want to face them at the minute, but we'll see.
You know what? A friend of mine stuck a bet, right?
Okay.
£2 on Japan to win the World Cup at 100-1. And he genuinely said that he's looked at Japan's running.
Yeah.
And they really, I think maybe they may have to play like Argentina or something. But he's like, they got points. They've beaten Germany. They've beaten Spain. Like, okay, they lost against Costa Rica, but he's saying like at 100-1, like the odds are absolutely incredible. He was trying to get more people to bet on it, but I definitely wasn't going to be that one. But I'm not saying they're going to win the World Cup, right? But it's definitely interesting, and that kind of moves us on to this game that I've got a really close friend of mine.
Okay.
Those that don't know me, I'm an estate agent, and I sold his house before we moved back to Poland. And I didn't know him before this. Anyway, so then we've just carried on chatting and getting to know each other. And he was texting me during the Poland-Argentina game in which they lost 2-0. But there was some really interesting facts in this before I get on to Spurs players, right? So Szczesny saved another penalty.
Yes.
Which I think he saved 2 in this tournament now.
Okay.
And at one point in that game, we're on the same ahead. Mexico were going to go out on cards.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where if Poland received 2 more yellow cards, then they would have to have drawn lots as to who was going to go through. That's how crazy it got to in terms of the stats. So
it's stupid.
Anyway.
I remember seeing that, and someone was going out based on yellow cards. Like, I'm sorry, but you can't base a team going out on cards. You just can't do that. And if that was the stage it got to, or whatever it was, like, mate, that's poor. Like, I can't get my head around it. If I'm honest,
right? They have to figure out something. And if the teams are just level all the way,
yeah. Do you know what you do? You get the captain from each team, centre circle, rock paper scissors, best of 3.
I thought you were going to say US style penalties.
Oh, mate, they were brilliant. That would, do you know what? Yeah, I'd like to see that, but no, the fairest way, like just rock paper scissors. Whoever wins goes through. That's what I'd do, but maybe that's why I'm not in charge. So,
but anyway, so Romero was back in the team.
Yeah,
clean sheet. They won the group, so pretty happy if you're an Argentina fan after how the tournament started against Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they in the end they got what they wanted and what they probably expected and deserved in the end. I mean, they were poor to start with, and they've kind of grown into the tournament. So luckily, they are on the opposite side of the tournament chart to us. So we can't face them unless it's in a final. So do I think they'll get there? I don't know. I'm pretty sure. I haven't, don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure they'll reach Brazil before they get to the latter stages of it. Yeah, so it was the two South Americans were at the top part of the chart, so they must meet at some point before. It may be a quarter final that they'll meet each other if they both get there. So that would be some game. Like I'd look forward to that one if it happened. But there's no saying that Argentina. There's no saying Argentina are going to do it. Are going to get that far. If Messi has a bit of a stinker, I don't think they tick as well as they do. So that will be interesting to follow.
Definitely. So last game in the campaign for both. Correct me if I'm wrong. Both Croatia and Belgium.
Yeah.
Oh no, they did. Oh, Croatia did qualify in the end. Anyway, ignore me. So this game was absolute trash. Like so bad that I think it's probably one of the worst games that I've seen. Perisic again played an attacking role, played all right. Croatia have been average all tournament, but just about kind of scraping through. Belgium out. It's always good to see. Do you know what I've liked so far in this tournament? There really hasn't been any terrible games. Apart from this one, there was a couple of other 0-0s, between the likes of Denmark and Tunisia, like things like that. But there really hasn't been any terrible games, apart from Lukaku in this game. I've never seen a striker so bad in all my life.
He's had his critics, hasn't he? Let's be honest. It's not as if like we're talking about a Harry Kane doing it. Like he's had his critics before. When Lukaku is low on confidence, I don't know if he is at the minute. I'm assuming I'm just going to put it down to that. But if Lukaku low on confidence, he can't even trap a ball. Like we've seen it before, where when he was playing for Man United, in particular when he was probably a bit, he was probably a little bit overweight as well from what he should have been. The ball was coming into him, and he was trying to trap the ball, and it was just bouncing off him like a trampoline. So I don't know if this is a Lukaku low on confidence or what. But yeah, I mean, I saw the ball rolled out to him on just outside the six, probably on the penalty spot, maybe a little bit closer in. All he had to do was roll it into the corner, and he's ended up hitting the beans. So he's absolutely fucked it for his country. So
yeah, definitely. Talking about other players going home, it was good to see yesterday the rematch of a World Cup quite a while ago, actually. Ghana against Uruguay.
Yeah.
Now, this game, I actually watched this while I was working yesterday. And what I found really interesting, right, was that Ghana were like, right, we want to knock out Uruguay.
Yeah.
And, whatever happens. Uruguay go 2-0 up.
Yeah.
And by going 2-0 up, they took off the goal scorer who scored both goals. They took off Suarez. They took off Darwin Núñez. At this point, they were going through.
Yeah.
And then all hell breaks loose in the next game, which I'll talk about in a minute. And they actually end up going out.
Yeah.
And the only negative thing about all of this, because the positive would have been that Bentancur had an all right tournament. He was going to go out to Spurs, have a little bit of a rest. The issue is the injury that he's now picked up.
Yeah.
Is that going to hamper his, game on Boxing Day? Is he going to be all right? We just don't know, right?
So I wasn't actually watching it. I'll admit I was doing a bit of work, but my dad messaged me and said someone's put in the WhatsApp group Bentancur's gone off injured. He's like, do you know anything about it? And I was like, oh, geez, because we have been. I mean, we haven't got that many players at the tournament anyway, but we've been okay with injuries. Normally, there's a couple pick up a few, but. So I checked Twitter, and Twitter didn't say too much about it, to be honest. And then I saw Spurs had tweeted saying that Bentancur's had to go off with an injury. So I thought, well, if Spurs are tweeting about it, it must be a bit of a serious one. But everyone was saying that he walked off the pitch without a limp or anything like that. But all that was the problem is he was devastated. You could see on his face that he was devastated. So at that point he thought, well, that's my tournament done. Little did he know that they wouldn't even go through anyway, so it didn't matter. But I mean, he's actually suspended for the Brentford game because he's picked up too many other cards. So that's another game that he wasn't going to play anyway.
Okay, yeah, good point.
Yeah, so he's got, and I think then I don't think there's like a game normally around Christmas. There's a game in quick succession. I'm pretty sure it's the 26th, and then I don't think we play. I'm pretty sure we don't play again until after the new year. It might be or on the new year around about that time. So he's got a bit of a break, but there's been nothing on Twitter or anything through Spurs saying that what injury it is and the time frame. So all we can do is just hope that now he can go back to Spurs and go to our famous medical
close
team.
to a month, isn't it? So, just under a month.
Yeah, exactly. So he's got a month to get himself fit. But if I'm honest, I'd stay clear of our medical team, because what will happen is he'll go back there. They'll say he'll be back in a couple of weeks, and then 4 months later, he's still in rehabilitation. So let's just hope he stays clear of them.
Yeah, definitely. Right, let's move on to that game that caused all that controversy, because it was Portugal 1, South Korea 1 until very late on. And actually, I had to change the entire name of this show, and no one knows that, not even you knew what the name of this show was. And I had to change the entire name of the show based on what happened in that game, because it was all based around Son.
Yeah.
And it was all based around Son going out of the World Cup until very, very, very late on in the game.
Yeah.
In which Son, who hadn't done a lot all tournament, let's be honest, broke away, held the ball up, and played the ball through to his teammate, who slotted them home to beat Portugal 2-1 in the 90th minute, and also send Uruguay home.
So I was listening to this on the radio at this point, because I was on my way back from work. I know I work from home, but I was in the office at this point. So I was listening to the radio, and I think it was it must have been the last 5 minutes I had on. And the commentators, it was quite funny, actually. It was almost like the commentators curse. Normally they'll say someone's playing good, and then they'll have an absolute stinker, or they'll miss a one-on-one or something. Whereas in this case, this commentator, it must have been 5 Live, was absolutely giving Son pelters, saying he's been boring all tournament, he's been below average, which he has been. He's not lying. But it's always the commentator's curse, and I love it when it happens, because all of a sudden, their voice changed. They were like, "Oh, Son's broke away. He's on his own. He's got no one with him." And I'm thinking, "Oh, he ain't going to do it all on his own." And then all of a sudden, someone's just appeared out of nowhere. He slipped him in and scored. And this commentator almost had to go back with his tail between his legs, because he said, "I've been giving him pelters all game," and to his credit, he's come out of the blue and done something. So this is what Son does, like the Leicester game. He was poor, average, came on, scored a couple of goals. Well, I say a couple of goals, a couple of worldy goals. And this is what Son does. He's the kind of player that if you want someone to get you up a pitch, he's the person to do it. If you're going to start a counter-attack, he's the person you want. And luckily for South Korea, the ball fell to him. And, he had a lot of composure to slip in his teammate as well. And into his teammate's credit, it was a good finish as well.
Yeah, definitely. And it was lovely to see Son crying for all the good reasons.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love it.
Right, last game in the tournament, Richarlison didn't play because he'd already qualified, so the fringe players played. But probably one of my favourite moments in the tournament, I reckon, so far. And the game finished Cameroon 1, Brazil 0, as far as I remember.
Yeah.
And what a moment at the end for probably the fellow who scored the goal of the tournament so far as well, with his little lobbed finish in the previous
scoop.
game. Yeah. But Abubakar, forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but he jumps up, great cross, jumps up, great header, and scores. Takes his shirt off, celebrates by doing the Messi, holding his shirt off, and the referee wanders over to him. Just shrugs his shoulders, gives him gives him a handshake, and then sends him off for a second yellow. And I thought it was brilliant, because at that point Cameroon weren't going through. They needed a kind of miracle to happen in the Serbia game. But I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. Like, from the referee as well. The referee knew what it meant to him.
Yeah, of course.
And knew he had to send him off. But it was just all a bit of light-hearted fun between everyone, and I really enjoyed that.
It was brilliant. I'd do the exact same thing. I mean, I'd do it if I scored against any country, but for him, it meant a lot. He scored against one of the favourites of the tournament. Potentially, he didn't know that at the time, although it was quite obvious, maybe, the winning goal. So, yeah, I mean, he knew when he took his shirt off, he knew exactly what was going to happen, because the referee, there was no way the referee was going to let it slide. He took his shirt off. He has to book him, and he already knew he was on a booking. So, yeah, it was a brilliant moment, and it's something, I love. I'd have done the same thing. So,
yeah, exactly. Definitely. But yeah, this kind of moves on to my point. So, in this World Cup, there's been some ups, some downs.
Yeah.
But England themselves have just slowly ground out the results they needed. And
Well,
let's kind of talk about England for 5 minutes. So, England won 6-2 in the first game, 0-0 in the second game, 3-0 in the third game. So far, been a decent tournament, but they need to learn from their mistakes, and they need to learn to stop starting so slow.
Yeah.
Even against Iran in the first game, first 20 minutes, they were slow to get into it. The whole of the USA game was slow to get into it, and the first half against Wales. But what do you think about England so far? In terms of the flexibility between players, the ability for them, because I'm thinking if we come up against France, I'm wanting 5 at the back at this point. I'm wanting Kyle Walker to play as left centre back, right centre back, to deal with that pace from Mbappe with another pacey right-sided player as well. But what are your kind of thoughts? Marcus Rashford's having a very good tournament. What's that? 3 goals for him now. And it's looking all right, isn't it?
I mean, it's if I'm honest, I think we have underperformed, even though we've qualified and we've done well. I do think we've underperformed. The teams that we've had in our group, we should have come out of that with 9 points. There's no was very disappointing. It was a game as simple as that. And I mean, but and whoever we get in the round after that, why we can't do the business again.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm not sure whether that's happened on everyone, but you were a bit kind of stuttery then. But we'll carry on. I kind of got the gist of what you were saying in that there. But, it's looking promising. England are playing tomorrow night against Senegal. Let's see kind of how that game progresses. And then, move on from there, because this tournament has had its ups and its downs, for kind of all teams. So it's going to be very interesting to see, who does what and whether actually there's even more shocks that come our way. So let's kind of see what happens and move on from there. But, good luck to England boys.
Like I said earlier. Like I said earlier, I've just quickly got it up on my phone, like the round of 16 knockouts. So Argentina, assuming they go through, will meet either Holland or USA. So they would meet Brazil if they qualify from there. They will meet Brazil in the semi-final. If all teams qualify as they should do. But again, USA and Netherlands. I can see USA giving them a game. If I'm honest, I think, what did I say? I think I said to my mate yesterday while I was chatting to him on the PlayStation. I think the surprise of the round of 16, I think it will be Morocco and Spain. So I think Morocco will knock Spain out. That's my call of because I mean, if we're looking at Spain, we said they've been underwhelming. They finished second in their group. Morocco won their group quite comfortably and have looked quite good all tournament. So I think people will look at that fixture in particular and expect Spain to go through. But I think Morocco will. And I also think USA might give Netherlands a game. But so semi-final is where we might see the South Americans come together. And if that is the case, what a semi-final for a World Cup that'll be.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll be the winner to face England. But we'll see what happens.
Exactly, but I don't know if anyone saw on the Mirror, quick one, random chat on the Mirror yesterday. There was a chat about a guy who claims to be a time traveler.
Right.
And there's this clip, and it shows the scoreline, or something along these lines, right? It's basically England-Portugal.
Yeah.
And the commentator says something like, and the champions of the world are England. So if this guy is anything to come across, it's going to be England-Portugal final, and England will win. So, let's believe the time-traveling man from the Daily Mirror.
I don't know. I mean, like I say, I look at our side. If we can get through Senegal, which I'm sure we will, we are likely to face France in the quarterfinal. If we can get past France, why can't we win it? Because we don't face any of the other big teams until a potential final. And in a final, in a one-off game, anything can happen, as we know. But like I say, for me, looking at the France game, I think, Mbappe, there's two. We've had Ronaldo and Messi. They're the two. They've always been the two goats. And Messi is the goat, but Ronaldo has his goat abilities. But we're looking now. We've got the new era coming through. I see of Haaland and Mbappe, and these are the two players now that are going to be the next to Ronaldo and Messi. And I look at Mbappe, and he's scary. His pace. There was one. I think it was the Denmark game where he made one quick jink as if he was going to go, put the Denmark defender or midfielder, whoever it was, on his arse. And at this point, Mbappe wasn't even receiving the ball. So he's just got that ability to, because that defender would have been scared at the fact of having Mbappe running at him. So he's got that about him, Mbappe. And I would personally, I mean, although Stones and Maguire have done well so far, they haven't really had to do a lot. Now, Mbappe running at Stones and Maguire really concerns me. So
Mbappe running at Maguire concerns me a lot more.
Yeah. Stones. I'll give to his credit. He's someone that, if he was ever out of favour, I'd fancy him at Spurs. I think he'd be a good centre back for us. So, but yeah, Mbappe running at Maguire, it terrifies me. So, like you say, we would probably have to adjust our system and get a Kyle Walker in there, because you need to match pace with pace. It's as simple as that. You can be one of the best defenders in the world, but if you've got someone with blistering pace like Mbappe running at you, you need someone to match it. So that would be a good call, like you say, for Kyle Walker. But let's get Senegal. We can't get too ahead of ourselves, because I don't think anyone at this tournament can be underestimated. And Senegal are there from their credit, so we can't underestimate them. But I still do expect us to beat them.
And worryingly, the Senegal game is on ITV.
Oh no, I didn't know that. Cheers, mate. Yeah, that's it. We're going out then, if that's the case.
Yeah, exactly, mate. And I'm just going to pull up, give me 2 secs, that stat that we were talking about last week.
The curse of ITV.
Yeah, bear with me. I'll see if I can find it. Here we go. So the World Cup record since 1998. Okay, BBC, 16 games, 12 wins. That's a 75% win ratio.
Nice.
ITV, 15 games, 2 wins, which is a 13% win ratio. Wow. And England play Senegal Sunday night at 7 p.m. on ITV.
Let's hope. Do you know what? The things are there to be broken. Like when we beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, we hadn't beaten them there for like 40 odd years. It had to come to an end at some point. This is the time. We're going to go out. We're gonna be the England that we expect, and we are going to win. And again, I think it will be interesting to see what Southgate does now. Just quickly touching on what you said about England, and how I have seen them this tournament. It's very similar to Spurs. Very, very slow start, but can grow into a game. And I think this is the problem we've got at Spurs. We've got a defensive manager, and not just a defensive manager, but he was obviously a defender. It's just his mindset. It's the same with Southgate. We've got someone who was a defender and is a defensive-minded manager. And what they want to do is they want to protect games before they potentially go out and win them. And I think that's the issue with us is we've got such an array of talent going forward, but we're not utilising it properly because we're concentrating too much at the back end of the pitch. So hopefully at some point, Southgate's going to have to look at himself and go, look, we can't play this way against a France. We need to match, obviously you're not just going to go gung-ho for 90 minutes, but there's a point where we've got to match their attacking threat and their ability going forward. And we've definitely got the players to do it, but it's whether we utilise them. And, I think Rashford deserves to start because he was phenomenal. So it's who that other player is at the other side of Harry Kane. And if it was up to me, it would be Phil Foden, because I think he's like he reminds me of like a Gaza. That's the type of player that he reminds me of, and the kind of peaks and what he can reach. So I think it should be Foden and Rashford either side of Harry Kane. But again, this is Southgate, and I think he'll probably go Sterling and Saka.
Yeah. But look, that team is good enough to beat them. So look, we will see next week. We will be back and we will be here talking about, hopefully, England still in the World Cup. Now, if anything is to go by, Chesney Hawkes performed before the match in Qatar. So for those who don't know, one-hit wonder, Chesney Hawkes. I have heard that he's back for the next game.
Right.
So I watched the last leg last night and he was on there. So he flew back from Qatar. He's doing Butlins in Skegness this weekend. Right. And then he's flying back to Qatar for the Senegal
seriously,
game.
Is that what a route that is? What?
Yeah, so Qatar, Skegness, back to Qatar.
Surely you'd look at that and go, do you know what? I think I'll just give the Skegness a bit of a miss and just stay in Qatar. But,
they might need a bit of dollar, though, mightn't he, to be honest?
Yeah, that's true.
But maybe he's getting some good air miles. Anyway, so he's back. So, if anything's to go by, we should win that game with Chesney Hawkes back in the stands. So, and if we win again, he can stay out in Qatar the whole time.
Exactly.
But anyway, we will see you all next week for another Spurs World Cup roundup. Might be a bit of a short show because all the Spurs players are going home. But anyway, Wynnie, thanks for joining us again. Thanks for always being a part of this channel. How can everyone find you?
So Wynnie 1991. I've been a bit quiet recently on Twitter. Just been a very busy time of the year, but head on there and check me out and drop me a message if you ever want to chat.
Perfect. And if you want to follow me, it's Luke_Park Lane on Twitter. But more importantly, make sure you're following this show on YouTube, Park Lane Podcast on YouTube, Park Lane Pod on Twitter and Instagram. And also, if you are listening to us on any podcasting platform, don't forget to follow us, give us a 5-star rating, and come along, join in, interact with us, and chat to us throughout the shows because your input is really important. But more importantly, is you show us some support, give us a subscribe on YouTube, and help us grow our audience as best we can. But all we can do is hope for good times on ITV tomorrow night with England versus Senegal. Stick your comments in the comment section if you're watching later on. But once again, thank you very, very much, everyone, for joining in. And we'll see you next time.
Come on, England.
Come on, England.